friends.
I'm Tabby.
And I'm Caitlin.
And today we are going to be talking about our 2022 Goodreads challenges. And for those of you who don't know what Goodreads is, it is an app that you can download basically to track books that you've read. You can see suggestions from like your friends. You can add other people on there. Really, it's like an encyclopedia for your book. It's really awesome. And they also have this cool thing where every year you can set an amount of books that you want to read. It's called a reading challenge. Really, it's just so that you can try to like one up yourself every year to see how many books you can read.
And it's super fun to me because just last year I started reading again for fun. Like I used to read all the time, but I went through like some years when I was like really like bogged down with school and I just wasn't reading. So this is kind of a way to like get you back into it. If you feel like you've been in a slump, it's great.
Yeah, 2020 was like our like glow up year for reading.
Oh gosh, yeah, I guess it was 2020 and it's 2022 now.
Years ago.
Wow. Okay. Time flies when you're having fun.
Right.
So right now, my Goodreads challenge for this year, I did have it set to 80 books, but I did just bump it up because I feel like I can do more. So yeah, so I just bumped mine up to 100 books. So far, I've read 20, which puts me ahead of schedule according to the like tracker.
I also had mine set to 80. I'm about to up mine to 20. I'm about to up mine to 100 as well. I'm at 31 for the year.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of chugging along. So I think I can do better.
It's so funny too, because yeah, I've set mine at 80 to match you, even though like you usually read like way faster than I do. But then I was like, you know what? I think I can do it. So you definitely need to bump yours up.
I think so. It's only March. So
yeah, I know we're flying. And now with the podcast, like it's got us reading extra. So that's awesome. So also we're going to talk about what we're currently reading. I am obsessed with my book right now. The second book of the cat and mouse duet. It's called Hunting Adeline by H.D. Carlton. It is so good. There are some, it's probably not for everyone.
It's triggering.
Yeah, there are some pretty hefty trigger warnings on this series. But if you don't really, get triggered by kind of violence or sexual violence or those kind of things, then I highly suggest this book because it's so good. Like I can't put it down. I have to pull myself away from it.
I'm excited to read it. And it's called the Cat and Mouse duet. If you guys want to read the first one, it's called Haunting Adeline.
Yes. Don't get it confused. Haunting and then hunting.
Yes. I am currently reading a book called What Lies Beyond the Veil. It has been a little bit of a switcheroony for me because I have been doing a lot of contemporary romance recently, and I switched back to fantasy, and boy, oh boy, is it just kind of a gear change. I've really enjoyed it so far, though. I'm only honestly about 20% into the book. It's pretty thick. Talking about like the fae and like just your typical fantasy, a lot of world building. So that's been really fun for my little brain to try to comprehend and keep up with. It has like a whole like 5 pages of like characters you need to know at the beginning of it. So
oh goodness. Well, y'all know that's our jam. Yeah. Oh good. I'll have to add that to my list. But if you guys have been listening so far, like we love a good fantasy series. So yeah, I guess if you
it's a minisode, by the way. This is not your full length episode.
Yeah, don't expect us to be here all day. We got reading to do. We have Goodreads challenges to complete. Yes. So we're just going to kind of each give you 5 recommendations of the books that we've read so far this year. The first recommendation that I have for you guys is Window Shopping by Tessa Bailey. Tabby recommended this one to me, and I've written little like blurbs to share with you to kind of like summarize what they're about. So, a young woman takes a chance at applying for her dream job after being released from prison. The owner of the store, who happens to be ridiculously optimistic and extremely hot, sees how qualified she is and offers her the position. 2 weeks before Christmas, Aiden hires Stella to create a stunning window display for the high-end department store. So it is very much a Hallmark Christmas vibe. It is, she's working for a high-end store. Yes, Hallmark smut. Our two favorite things combined into one. So yeah, I don't know if you can tell, but there's a bit of attraction between this boss and newly hired employee. So that's kind of what the book focuses on, is how their relationship developed. It's very, very cute. It's also a bit spicy at times, but it's a little tame considering some of the other things that we read.
For Tessa Bailey, if you've never read her books, she is like the queen of like dirty talk. And so I think for this one, yeah, it was on the tamer side because, it was supposed to be kind of a fun, festive, quick read.
Yeah. Yeah. She's like, we can't be tainting Christmas too much. Like, it'll make people uncomfy.
But I do love Aiden.
Yes, Aiden. So the first time I read this book, I actually listened to the audiobook, and like, no shade to the voice actor, but Aiden makes me so uncomfortable.
2 out of 10 for the voice actor, unfortunately.
He has a Southern, like, Tennessee accent. But there are just certain scenes where it does not work for me. It makes me like physically revolt against what I'm hearing.
It's not even like a naturally occurring accent either. It is very much like a forced, like, Southern accent.
So yeah, it's definitely a no from me, dog. But don't let that distract you. If the only way you can consume books is through audiobooks, I still say it's worth a listen. But hopefully you can pick it up in print.
That's how I feel about the next series we're going to talk about on here. God, I hated the audiobook. One of my top recommendations I read so far this year, I've been doing a lot of series this year, which I think is partially why I've read so many books, is just because there's been like 8 in a series. The first one is the Fortuna Sworn series. It's by KJ Sutton. Basically, it's following Fortuna Sworn. She is the last of her kind. It's a fantasy novel, fae, vampires, werewolves, stuff like that. So her brother disappeared 2 years ago, leaving her with no family or species to speak of. She hides amongst the humans, spending her days working at a bar and her nights searching for him. She does meet Tall, Dark, and Handsome. Love that. Loved and hated this book series at the same time. There is a love triangle, and I definitely have my favorite of the two. It's heavily contested. If anyone's read this series, you'll know. It's unfinished, which is unfortunate. If you don't like unfinished series, definitely maybe don't start it immediately, because the next one is not coming out till later this year, I think. But amazing writing. It definitely like does what it's intended to do. It makes you hate what the character hates. It makes you hate her. It makes you hate her life, and then you love her. And it's a roller coaster, but really good book series.
I'm so excited to read that one. A lot of these Tabby had, like the ones that I'm recommending, Tabby has already read, and she's the one who recommended them to me. So I'm always a step behind, but that's okay.
I don't know. You've read Hunting Adeline. I haven't.
Yeah, that's true. I am ahead of you on that one. So the next books I'm going to talk about are also a series. It's called The Maid series by Danielle Laurie. It is, I love it. Okay, it's a 3-book series about made men who are mafia men and the women who end up falling in love with them. It is spicy. It's funny. It's morally questionable. It's so everything funny. You want in a book. Oh, it's so funny, especially the second book in the series. You guys, the main character in that one, Gianna, she is hilarious. And she makes like another appearance in the 3rd book, even funnier. Like, she just stays
the
sassy.
Main character of the first book. He could break my kneecaps and I'd say thank you.
Oh, absolutely. Honestly, any of them
can get it. Any day of the week.
Yeah, highly recommend. If you guys are into like a spicier romance series, this is the one for you.
They're quick reads too.
They are. And especially because they're so like action packed, you don't want to put it down because they keep moving and you're like, oh, okay. Someone's in danger. And
you don't have to necessarily read them in order too. They can all be standalones if they want.
That's true.
I would recommend reading them all though, for sure.
Yes. Yeah. And it's kind of, I liked reading them in order just because it gives you a little peek into the other characters that are the focus of the second and third book.
My second book is the Off Campus series. It's by Elle Kennedy. I didn't think I liked hockey until I read these books, and now I love hockey. Who doesn't love a good sports romance novel?
Now she's a hockey hoe.
Hockey ho. So this series follows 4 friends. They play hockey at this university called Briar University. Basically, it follows them as they kind of navigate their college lives and them finding, love for the first time, how it affects who they are as people, and makes them like question everything essentially. They're really, really cute, quick reads. There's 4 and there's a 5th novella that kind of like wraps up the whole series. It's called The Legacies. I loved every single one of them except for the 4th book. And that's my personal opinion because there are certain tropes that I just don't care for personally.
I feel like I know exactly what you're hinting at. Yeah, I haven't even read it.
I won't ruin anything, but there's some I just don't like, and that's kind of what it was. But they're all 10 out of 10 books. If you just want a cute rom-com.
Yeah, I've been big into the rom-coms this year, which is a great segue for the next book on my list. So, Written in the Stars by Alexandria Bellfleur. It is also part of a 3-book series where the books are all standalone. So far, I've only read the first one. Fun fact about this one is Tabby's younger sister has been trying to get us both to read this series for so long. You were right, Tori. I'm so sorry. But I still haven't read it. Also, I messed up, guys, because then I tried to read the 3rd book first, and she was like, "Bless your heart."
You dumb bitch.
Yeah, I'm really stupid, but I figured it out, read the first book. So I'm going to talk about that one only. A modern take on Pride and Prejudice that showcases a women who like women relationship. Elle, a full-time astrologist, has a horrible first date with Darcy, an uptight actuary. First impressions aren't great. What will happen when they decide to pretend to date each other temporarily? And I will leave it at that. You guys probably know what's going to happen. You probably have a good idea what's going to happen.
I need to read that series. Tori, I'm sorry.
Yeah, you should be.
The 3rd series that I've read this year is the Bergman Brothers, or the Bergman family. I think it's called the Bergman Brothers series. But it is by Chloe, I think it's Liese or Lise. I apologize to Chloe for the mispronunciation. But basically it follows the Bergman family. They are like this giant, like Scandinavian family. Like there's like 6 of them or something. And basically each book is broken up between a different sibling. I don't know why it's called the Bergman Brothers series because one of them is definitely about their sister. So I'm not sure. The cool thing about this author is that she is actually disabled herself. She is also on the spectrum. So her books a lot of the time really focus on main characters who are either disabled or they have autism themselves or on the spectrum somehow. And I think that's really, really cool because a lot of books just don't really ever focus on like the disabled community. They don't focus on like neurodivergent people. So
yeah, I love that. Because like a lot of times whenever those characters do have representation in a novel, they're not the main character.
Yeah.
And sometimes if they are the main character, then it serves some other purpose. Like, then it's just about their disability or their neurodivergence instead of just being about them as a person. So
exactly.
That sounds fantastic.
They are definitely slow burns. So if you're not a slow burn fan, those may not be for you. I love a good slow burn though.
I love a good slow burn.
Yeah, she does just such a fantastic job at representing that community.
Oh, I love that. There's so many books on my to read list right now, but I'm gonna get through them. Just you wait and see. It's what I live for. So the next one on my list is a little bit more somber. It is Reminders of Him by Colleen Hoover. It is a romance still. A young woman is released from prison and travels to the town to the town she's from to meet the daughter that was taken from her the moment she was born. She quickly learns that one of her only allies in this town is one of the main obstacles in the way of making that happen. This novel is very much about self-forgiveness and finding self-love and healing whenever you've made mistakes that have haunted you for years. And it is a very touching story. It is a romance, but it's not a rom-com. So it is a much different vibe than what we've been talking about, but I still highly recommend it. I don't know what else to say without giving anything away.
Really good things about her books. They give me like, I don't know, like Nicholas Sparks vibes almost.
Yeah, where it's like a more serious tone.
Which I have to really be in the mood to read stuff like that, but I do have a great appreciation for those books.
Yeah, absolutely. I can understand that.
My next book, it's actually a standalone for once. It's called To Love Jason Thorne. There is a follow-up book to it, but both of them can be read as standalone. So I'm not going to talk about the second one because I didn't like it. But To Love Jason Thorne, it's by Ella Mays. It's about this main character. Her name is Olive. So Olive wrote a romance novel inspired by her childhood crush, a boy named Jason Thorne. Well, now he's a hot movie actor who will star in a movie based on her book. They haven't seen each other in 7 years, and things get interesting when they meet again. It is so good.
Sounds so good. I'm hooked.
Oh my God. Like the freaking dirty talk in that book, like it is like top tier. And like, it's not even like it's kind of smut, but it's not like, that's not the main focus, but like she writes it so well. Like it's so good. I loved this book. And like all of the main characters, she is so freaking funny. Like her inner monologue killed me. And that's what I appreciate about a book is like if the inner monologue of the main character is like something like the way that I would think, instantly love the book.
So the last book I'm going to talk about is actually the most recent book I finished before the one I'm reading right now. It's called Jane in Love by Rachel Givney. Jane Austen is 28 years old. She has no money and no prospects. She is already a burden to her parents and she's frightened. So she meets with a matchmaker desperately ready to find love. The only catch? Her soulmate is in the year 2020. Building from the plot of Persuasion, this novel examines the delicate balance of sacrifices we are willing to make for true love. What I liked about this book, yes, it is very cute. Highly recommend. First of all, I love Jane Austen. I'm a huge fan of Jane Austen. And one of my all-time favorite books is Pride and Prejudice. I don't care if that makes me basic, but it's my favorite of the Austen novels. It just is what it is. She, in this book, is very true to the character as they understood Jane Austen to be, like very witty and funny, but also, you know, she's a product of her time. She's from 1803 when she time travels to 2020. And so she's like horrified that women's ankles are showing and like all this stuff. It is so funny. Just the concept of Jane Austen being thrown into 2020 is hilarious on its own. But it's also sad. It's also a book that allows you to like reflect on how much you're willing to give up of yourself to pursue true love. Honestly, you see a lot of Jane Austen inspiration in Rachel Givney's writing, which is super impressive.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, the perspective changes based on what character is being focused on. And so when it's Jane, it's very, I mean, it feels like you're reading Jane Austen. It's very impressive.
That is so interesting.
Yeah.
I have to read that. So the last book that I want to recommend is called The Hollow Heathens. It's by Nicole Fiorina. It was very interesting. It kind of gave me like spooky Halloween vibes, even though I read it in January. And would definitely recommend it for like if you do a book club and you want like a good Halloween October book, it's a good one. Basically it's like a gothic romance. It's haunting, forbidden love, murder, century-old curses, stuff like that. It follows this girl named Fallon. So she, when she was a baby, was like taken away from this tiny little town called Weeping Hollow basically it's like invisible to the human eye, and like you have to have like witch blood in you to go there. But there's this group of 4 men called the Hollow Heathens, and they basically were cursed like hundreds of years ago to provide like magic for the town. But like the curse is that like nobody can see their faces, and so they wear like masks, and like anybody who takes off their mask like dies of like their worst fear, basically like their heart explodes. It's just it's very dark. It's super spooky, but it was really good, and it's the first one in the series. So this one was called the Book of Blackwell. So each of the families has like their own like book of magic, basically. And so I think the whole series is going to be based off of like each like founding family in that town.
That sounds really good. I am like
really
super
good.
interested in reading that one. I love spooky stuff. I'm very interested in like the occult and like, witchcraft
Very
in
culty
general.
vibes.
I love it.
Yeah.
Spooky,
Loved
spooky.
it.
So we're going to talk about our favorite that we've read so far this year and also our least favorite. My favorite that I've read so far this year is Written in the Stars. I did kind of mention that it's loosely based on Pride and Prejudice, which I also, when I talked about Jane and Love, I said, how much of a sucker I am for that. So it is very cute. It's hilarious. Also, it has a few spicy scenes if you're into, those like little romantic vibes. It's got that going for it as well. So 10 out of 10.
So my favorite that I've read this year is actually not one that I talked about above. It is the second installment of the Crescent City series, and that is by Sarah J. Maas. And for those of you who follow pretty regularly with the podcast, you know that we are Sarah Stans. Crescent City is the third series that she has written. It is so freaking good if you haven't read it. House of Sky and Breath just came out in February. It basically is following from what happened at the end of the first book, and there are so many twists and freaking turns and plot twists. The freaking ending leaves you kind of on a cliffhanger, I'm not gonna lie, but it is a 15 out of 10 for me.
I'm so excited to read those. I just want to feel what you're feeling right now.
Like, I cannot even begin to describe the excitement I have and all the theories that I'm compiling for you people right now. We are eventually going to cover all of Sarah J. Maas's books. And you bet your bottom dollar that I'm going to have an episode dedicated to theories.
Only theories. That's
Only theories.
Kind of your thing. Our theorizing queen. Okay, least favorite. Boy, was I unimpressed with this one. Tessa Bailey wrote a series that was like, again, they're standalone books, but they are related to each other. So this one is Love Her or Lose Her. It's part of the Hot and Hammered series. It is the only of the 3 that I've read so far, and it is like the second one.
I hated that book.
Hated it. Hated the characters. They're rude, they're selfish, and that's kind of the point of the book, but it bothers me so much. And also his nickname for her is gross. It's like Honey Girl or something, and every time he called her Honey Girl, I was like, ew. Like, shake that off. Like nails on a chalkboard.
Though. To be fair, to be completely fair, that is the second book in the series, and the first one's called Fix Her Up. The third one, I can't remember what it's called. I actually refused to read the second book because I just so much did not care about the 2 characters in that story. The first book in that series, it is so good. The third book, even better. Not gonna lie, the first book, like, just to preface it, the main character is a clown, like a party clown. So like that weirds me out immediately. But it's a really good story. The second book, it's garbage.
That's good that you mentioned that those are worth reading, because yes. I am telling you, if you had not said that to me, if you had not already put in the legwork, I would not have touched another one in that series. This one was that
You gotta
bad.
read the first and the third, because Tessa Bailey is one of my favorite authors. She really is. But every now and then, I just don't care for her work, and that's how I felt about Love Her or Lose Her.
Yeah, and it's definitely just the characters, because her writing is still fabulous. It's just she's created 2 characters that are just too flawed for me.
And they know that they are, and they're not willing to do it. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Anyway, we could go on all day.
So I actually have two for ones I was so excited for them and I was so disappointed when I finished them. So the first one is actually also by Tessa Bailey. Tessa, come on, honey.
Hey, babes.
What are you doing? We
Quit
already
cranking
did
them
both.
out. Just take a break.
The first one is called Hook, Line, and Sinker by Tessa Bailey. One of my absolute favorite novels is It Happened One Summer, also by Tessa Bailey. This is the extension of that series. I had such high hopes for this book and I finished it in like one day. It's a pretty quick read. It was so repetitive. Like the main character had both of the main characters had like a singular problem that very much could have been avoided. And like they kind of made it their personality trait. Like there were so many times where like the book could have ended because we could have solved this issue. And you know me, I'm not a big fan of the miscommunication trope.
Yeah.
And it was just, I don't know. It drove me freaking crazy. And on top of that, if you buy the Kindle version, it says there's 390 pages in it. It's actually only 320. The last 70 pages are an excerpt from the first book. I
What?
was so upset. Yeah. So I'm like reading the Kindle version. I'm like, oh, hell yeah. I have like so much of this book left. Like we have so much time for them to build like this beautiful story afterwards. No, it ends and it happened one summer. And I'm like, well, I already fucking read that book.
Why would they do
I was
that?
so mad.
Mm.
The second one is From Luke Off with Love. It's not that it's a bad book. It's a very good book, but it like was just kind of disappointing almost. Like it ended so abruptly and kind of the same thing. Like they're just like denying their affection for each other the entire book. And then in the last 20 pages, it's resolved. And I hate shit like that. Like I love a good slow burn. I really do, but not that slow. And also I need some like resolution afterwards. Like I want to know more about them like being together. And so, like I said, it's a really good book. I was just kind of disappointed.
I would be too. And I wonder if the intention is like to write more books and like that's kind of why they cut it off so quickly. But I don't know.
Also,
I don't love
the
that.
main female character, she's just kind of annoying. And I wish we had gotten a dual point of view from the main male character because he was very interesting. So I don't know. I didn't love it.
Understandable.
So for those of you, we also would love for our fans to, jump in on our whole Goodreads book challenge. Definitely, even if you're not like a huge reader, you just feel kind of intimidated by reading, start off small. We're challenging all of you guys to read at least 22 books for the year 2022. Very achievable challenge. That's like 2 books a month.
Because you can read, right? Like,
and if you can read, just say that.
Yeah, so we are expecting that you can read. None of you are Feyres or Jareds. And for those of you who like to read a lot more than that, you're like, I can do more than 22 books, but you just don't have a Goodreads challenge set up yet. Shoot for the stars, man, and share them with us. We would love for you guys to follow or add us on Goodreads so that we can see what you're up to. Our links to our Goodreads are on our website. It's bestfriendsbookclub.com. And if you aren't on Goodreads, follow us on Instagram. User handle is the Sisters Warden, and we would love to talk to you there as well.
Yeah, and tune in next week. We are going to be talking about the 4th book of the ACOTAR series. It's called Frost and Starlight by Sarah J. Maas. It's our very ACOTAR Christmas special. It's just a short little novella. I actually don't think Sarah J. Maas even counts it as like one of the books in the series, but we're super, super stoked to talk about it. It's so cute.
It's very cute.
But we will see you next week. And as always,
let's get lit.